Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, my brothers and sisters. This is where the right and left come to try to be reasonable. Now, this is a bit thinky here at the top before we get into the spiciness that is the Green Prince. The biggest challenge that we're presented with in our politics today is to figure out why we are where we are. Too many of us are mad as hell and determined not to take it anymore. But anger can blind you, or at a minimum put blinders on you such that your focus is narrowed. And that kind of mental myopia can lead to intolerance of anything but acceptance of what is seen by some, by half, by one side as right, which often becomes just an empty echo of sameness. Everything else is dismissed as just wrong. And that is why I think we are where we are in our politics. We have to deal with the estrangement of these two conditions, right and wrong. And no, this isn't about moralizing or anything high-minded at all. Although I could argue part of the reason that we seem to be barreling down the road of extremism in our society, and we are, is because we've lost a sense of what our society values, specifically in terms of right and wrong. But my point tonight is more basic than that. It's that we seem to be in a zero-sum battle where everyone must insist they are right, and it is death to be wrong. You know, the word has an interesting etymology. Wrong basically comes from the idea of being crooked, distorted. There's an ugliness connected to wrongness, and I think that has empowered resistance to any ideas other than those which you already subscribe to, and that is hurting us. My argument is that we seem to have abandoned the wisdom that guides us everywhere else in life. What do you want your kids to do? Learn from their mistakes. You want them to make mistakes. We teach ourselves, we teach others that you learn when you're wrong, when you fail. When you take a test, do you review the answers you got right? No, you review the ones you got wrong. Why? To learn, to figure it out, so you don't make the same mistakes. That's how you learn, trial and error. There's none of that in our politics, nor in our social media parallel society. Our dynamic, where either you agree like a good little lemming, or you are ostracized as evil or stupid or a cuck, is because there's no room for wrong. And the problem with that is very apparent when you look at where we are. There's no compromise, there's no accommodation, there's no nuance, there's no two things being true at the same time. We've even ruined the virtue of debate. It's no longer a contest of ideas where people can learn and grow or find anything like a solution. You see these guys who go through the roster of college kids on social media, it's all about escaping being wrong, even in part, where cleverness conceals these connivances to evade correction or accommodation of any idea. Or these battling boxes, these panel pods where they're all screaming at each other. It's all about finding a weakness in the other side and exposing it. That's not debate. It's not what Socrates developed as a way of testing ideas to create understanding. This is why people have replaced reason with rage. We now believe that if you say something a lot or loudly enough, it makes it true. I used to call it the Trump three-step during the first election. You know, some people say I'm the best there ever was. I mean, maybe I am the best there ever was. I mean, look, everybody says I'm the best there ever was. That is what is passing for logic these days. We've confused volume or being vociferous with veracity. And that's a major mistake. It's turned us as a society into a kind of kindergarten where everyone just screams until they get what they want, regardless of how poor the reasoning. The same is true with gotcha moments. The other night, I had MAGA pod bro Benny Johnson on, right? Why? Because I believe in conversation as the cure. I believe in it. So what did he do? He didn't like that I was testing him on things. So he pulls up a presumed gotcha from years ago that I said, whoever said protests are supposed to be peaceful. Like, I don't know what the First Amendment is as a lawyer for some 35 years. He was trying to use that out of context statement to prove that I was wrong. Why? Because if he could prove that I was wrong about something, that somehow would elevate him, and perversely the notion that he's right about everything if I'm wrong about anything. If I can show that you're wrong, then I must be right, which doesn't always follow. Proving someone is wrong doesn't mean you're right. And now the wrongness is often unrelated to what's being discussed, as it was in the case with my mediocre bench pressing pal, Benny. That's how every issue in our politics is now. Whether it's war or tariffs or transgender, it has to be one way or the other. In a world where everything is gotchas and owning and destroying and disrupting and exposing, there's no room for wrong and there's no progress as a result. The heir to Socrates' virtue was one of my favorite philosophers, Seneca. Lucius was his first name, and he put the idea of the value of being right and turned it on its head. Not only did he give us the famous line, "To err is human," but he saw changing your mind and going from a proposition you believe to be right, but is now wrong, and coming to a different conclusion as actually the key to wisdom. He feared people who held on to positions and insisted that they were right and cherry-picked data and found clever ways to get away from weaknesses in their own argument, and they saw them as dangerous and as fools. Even the Bible instructs us in the way that I am suggesting. James 3:17, wisdom from above is easy to be entreated. Entreated, meaning open to correction. A heart ready to listen, admit error, and change course. How many self-described Christians say they believe the word but refuse to practice what I just said? Such a basic tenet. This is such an obvious deficiency that I decided to do a little social experiment today. I do not apologize for what you're about to see, for baiting people by making a quick video that was all about how wrong I have been. I'm remembering right now, wow, I'm wrong a lot. We don't like to say it, we don't like to admit it, we really don't like to correct it, but that is how you grow and you get to a better place. And it is such a precious commodity right now. I've been wrong. I've been wrong about political issues. I've been wrong about people. I've been wrong about myself. I've been wrong about my responsibilities. I've been wrong about my opinions, my tastes, my choices. I've been wrong. And that's okay. Hopefully you learn. Hopefully when you're wrong, you get to a better place if you do the work, unless you stubbornly hold on. And that's where so much of us are stuck. It's not just being wrong, it's refusing to learn what's right. I've been wrong. Have you been wrong? If you say no, you're wrong. Now, notice, I intentionally didn't mention anything specific. No specific issue, no specific wrongness. Because what I wanted to do is see where people would take it. And as sure, I was so much more right, ironically, than I thought I would be. There's the flood of people who saw this as an admission of weakness and an opportunity to bounce on my feigned vulnerability. So I responded to one on Twitter. Cuomo just admitted he's been wrong about everything up until now, as if it meant she had been right, therefore, because I guess she must disagree with whatever she thinks I believe or report. She didn't even realize that she was demonstrating the problem. So I was like, this is great. So I went to my producer, Ben, and said, you pick some of your favorites. I don't even want to see what they are. I just want to read them on the show, just to show how addicted we are to proving that someone else is wrong, as if that's going to elevate us. All right? So here's some of them. Again, these are the first time I've ever seen any of these. My bet is that he will continue to be wrong about everything in the future. And look at the name. Anger is a woman. How perfect is this? How perfect is this? Anger is a woman, and not the best part of being a woman, right? Because it has made this person, assuming it even is a woman, irrational. My bet. Of course you want to bet that way because you want people to be wrong. You think it elevates you, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It makes you less. It makes you as empty as your avatar. You knowingly pushed propaganda from a place of extreme influence, and people died and got hurt because of it. Now, to some of you, you won't know what this is about, but I do. This is one of the anti-vaxxers, okay? And they are so great of an example, okay? You take a situation where we didn't have enough information in real time. We had information that was wrong, that we didn't check enough in real time. because we were learning in real time during the pandemic. And there has been this after the fact, I always knew what was right mentality that is really, really symptomatic of what I'm telling you, really representative of it, where these people actually think, who voted for Trump, okay, unanimously, all right, who at the same time they voted for Trump, who brought us the vaccine, see the vaccine as a poison that was a low point in American development. Think about that. You talk about how perverse we are with right and wrong. You voted for the guy who brought you what you think is poison. That's how perverse we are. That's how not open to reason we are, to not being open to compromise. Next, he's jumping from the sinking Democrat ship. If they were winning, he would be right there with them. Don't trust him for a minute. Now, you know, it's this one. You see that ad? I wonder if it's a bot. Maybe. But it doesn't matter, because it even actually enhances the point that people know that this is something to play with, and that you should prey upon people's insecurity, and that if you can show that somebody is wrong or accuse them of that, they are not to be trusted. When think about it, who would you rather trust? What is a better leadership quality? Someone who owns up to when they are right and wrong, or someone who refuses to ever admit that they are wrong and just convince you about bad things about people who disagree? Now, what is my point with these? It's not to expose these a-holes. Let's be honest. They could be any of us, at least some of the time. But by exposing what is wrong, we may have a better chance of counteracting this cancer and getting to a place where you can believe the tariffs aren't a bad idea, but they only are a good idea if they are used in the right way. Same thing with tax cuts, right? I like tax cuts. I don't like tax cuts. No. Who? When? Why? That's beyond right and wrong, right? Guns. Not yes, no. It's who? When? Same thing with Gaza. Okay? If you don't make any space for the idea that you may not have everything exactly as it is, that you cannot hold two opposing truths in your head at the same time, you need more aid in Gaza, and until Hamas surrenders, this will never end. Why doesn't anybody present both of these? Because you got to be one or the other. You're right or you're wrong. How can we ever expect to solve anything this way? That's what I want you to think about.